Can you please state your name?
Low.
This is my mother, and I'm going to be interviewing her about the gun violence due to gang members in the community and how she feels about it. Over the past 25 years, no other major city has had such a dramatic single-year increase in homicides as Chicago did, and more homicides were committed with guns in Chicago than any other major city. A strategy aimed at reducing gun violence in Chicago by targeting gang members most at risk of being victims or perpetrators with a combination of moral cessation and the threat of criminal sanctions resulted in significant reductions of violence. So, Mom, how do you feel about the gun violence in the community?
Well, I can say that the gun violence in the community is completely out of control. I can say, or I feel that the reason why it's out of control is, one, I think that it's a lack of parenting. Two, that there's a lack of jobs. And three, believe it or not, I'm going to say, when I say parenting, I mean as a sense that I feel as a mother, I'm obligated to teach my children a matter of respect and values. And when you especially come from single parent houses, I just like to say that this jealousy is so overrated, it's out of control, that I think it plays a part on the out of control violence that basically is geared to the gun violence in Chicago. And if I could just break it down to say that if you're sitting in your house and you're raising children, I wouldn't care if it's a girl or a boy, and you're in the midst of chaos and confusion. And just as I said before, jealousy is really the big issue here. It's like who has what and who can't afford what, and the fact that there are no jobs out here to maintain a certain lifestyle. That you raise up these children, and if they're hearing all of this confusion and chaos, what do you think you're going to get? A bunch of chaotic children. So with that being said, I just feel that the gun violence in Illinois starts in the home. I don't care who's shipping them in, who's bringing them in. I just feel as a parent we are obligated to raise our children up. And not to say that you can raise your children up and they, to raise them up to be independent or to be with good values, and they come out here and then they get with the wrong crowd. Again, bad parenting is ultimately what I believe is the reason why these guns are coming into Chicago and causing this horrible amount of deaths and just chaos.
Okay, so do you know what the put the guns down movement is?
Well, I guess it would be exactly what it says, to get rid of guns.
Yeah, you are correct. The Put the Gun Downs movement has partnered up and influenced with the VRS, and basically what that is just like another group who helps Chicago put the guns down, and they have brought a 23% reduction in over patterns, and they brought it down 23%, and then they reduced 32% of shooting in the communities in the city of Chicago. And do you think that the government is doing enough to stop the numbers of gun violence in Chicago?
I do not, and I specifically, by me being a CTA bus driver, what I've noticed doing my routes and riding through certain areas is that the government is not doing enough. As a matter of fact, I believe that the government is basically refusing to do enough, basically because of the conditioning of certain areas. And I feel like these certain areas are set or doomed to fail based on the fact that they're not doing enough. Me also being a contractor, I look and see how gentrification is coming in through our neighborhoods. And when you have a group of people or a society of people that don't have jobs or they're dependent on the government and they're getting these resources, which is keeping them conditioned, because if you're giving resources as far as like for survival, meaning public assistance to these families and not educational assistance, like if you don't know this, if you are receiving food stamps, you cannot go to college and receive food stamps. And that to me alone tells me that something is wrong with this program. However, I feel that these people out here who are depending on the government, which I feel is not doing enough, is basically keeping them conditioned to living in these conditions, which brings forth gun violence in our neighborhoods. So no, the government is not doing enough.
What do you think the government should do to try to stop gun violence?
Stop being deceptive and take away public assistance and bring more jobs. Like, I don't mean snatch it away where families are not able to survive, but I mean make it possible where families could go to school or make programs for families to get jobs and then have jobs available for them to work in order to cut back on the violence, the gun violence in the community. That's what I think they could do.
Oh, that sounds like a good idea. So, how do you think that, or what can us individuals do in our own communities to make gun violence go away, like individually?
Exercise more love. Also, if it's your community, I think that we should take a responsibility. Like, for instance, if you have the drug dealers on your street or the prostitutes in your neighborhood, you ought to be trying to do something about that. I mean, sometimes we can't exercise trying to change other people. However, and if you do have that group of people that is not willing to change, then that's what the police is there for, to protect and serve. I think that we ought to be more responsible and taking the initiative to take care of our own communities instead of turning our backs and closing our doors. And I just think that collectively, once that one individual takes responsibility or the initiative to show that that's what they're willing to do as far as love is concerned, and then to step out, to reach out to your neighbor and see if you can get them on board, I think that it's possible that we can change the way the gun violence is in Chicago.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said that, because if people would be doing this, the number of homicides and shootings based on the individual people teaching their kids and teaching the kids that are out here. Because me personally, I feel like monkey see, monkey do. If a kid is outside playing with guns and stuff, it's going to influence the upcoming children to want to do that.
And if I can also interject to that, I feel that if you take away fear and this no snitch crap that keeps the criminals in the neighborhood, it's just that, sometimes they don't feel that the police are there to actually protect and serve. It's really the police being there to solve, and then you end up solving your own problems when you decide to step up to be that person to make sure that you're trying to eliminate the violence in your neighborhood. Not everyone trusts the police either. But again, to get rid of this no snitch thing that they have on the street, to actually get the killers out of the community, we have to work on that. And that too can, basically stop the gun violence in the neighborhood if you just get rid of fear.
And I personally agree with that, because there has been like 91% of homicides committed due to gang violence and due to people not speaking up for themselves and not speaking up for the community and not taking part of the community and not knowing what's going on. Because, in some communities, there's like a lot of gang members that thrive in that community, so the people that live in the community don't want to say anything about it because they're scared. And then not only that, like some kids, they just walk outside and just because they look like somebody else, they get shot and they're murdered. And I think we both can agree that that plays a big part in what we are doing. So to end this interview, I want to ask you, what did you learn today? What did you learn today?
Well, I've learned to be more loving towards my neighbor. I feel as though I've learned to be more productive in my community, and I've also learned to be more concerned with my parenting and the upbringing of my children, to make them more aware of how society is and how dangerous it can be in society, meaning our own neighborhoods. And also to raise children that are more aware in the sense of being more loving and productive as citizens. And that's what I've learned.
Okay, thank you for your time and letting me interview you, Mom.
You're welcome.
How do you feel about the gun violence in the community?
I feel the gun violence is far out of control.
Do you know what the Put the Guns Down movement is?
Yes, I do. It's a community-based program where I do with the local community, parents, and families to possibly help rid gun violence in the city.
And question 3 is, why do you think there is a lot of gun violence in these communities?
We have far too many illegal guns on the streets, and the community is not involved. Parents are not involved. Parents and people can see their own children with guns and they do nothing.
And then, what can you do as an individual to stop gun violence?
Well, I don't know about an individual, but possibly as a group, you may join the programs and make people become more aware of the devastation that guns are actually causing.
Okay. And then, do you think the government is doing enough to stop the numbers of gun violence in Chicago?
I'm not sure about that. As I became more aware of actually how some guns are brought in, I'm not sure if they're doing as much as they can do. And those guns are coming in from so many different areas, even through drug exchanges and all of that. So I don't think they're doing enough.
And then, how do you think these gang members get a hold of guns?
There's a lot of drug trade, a lot of sex trade, all is tied into one. Guns are coming through the country from so many different avenues, so it's unbelievable.
What do you think the government should do to keep the gang members from buying guns?
I don't know what they can do to keep them from buying guns. As long as the guns are available, I think they will buy them.
Do you think they should have like stricter gun laws, or just more have of like a background check of who the people are before they are allowed to buy them?
Well, they're not buying them because they're allowed to buy them. They're buying them illegally.
That's true.
So the background checks won't matter.
That's true. Okay, and then from what have you heard about the Put the Guns Down movement, do you think they're doing enough about the gang gun violence in our communities?
Well, I think the problem is so wide, and I don't really think anyone has the answer right now. So I think they're just trying different strategies, and anything is good, but as of now, I don't think they have an answer.
And last question is, what did you learn today from this interview?